Today, I want to talk about the Donald Trump jury trial verdict out of New York, in which he was found guilty of 34 felony counts. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Libertarian Front. My name is Joe Palmetto. I am your host. I had an undergraduate major in political science, studied global politics, also Asian politics, and then I have a law degree from Duquesne Law, and I've been a practicing attorney for over more than the last 10 years, 10 plus years, and I'm primarily a criminal defense lawyer. So I've done multiple jury trials, handled thousands of criminal cases, dozens of non-jury trials. So I think I have a lot to say on this topic, and I have a lot of experience and knowledge in this topic as well. So I'm going to speak about the Donald Trump jury trial verdicts, both from the perspective of a criminal defense lawyer, but also as someone who views themselves as a libertarian. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It's a free way to support the show. I need more likes. I need more comments. I need more shares. I'm trying to grow this channel, and those things will help me get monetized. Once I get monetized, once I have enough subscribers, YouTube will start to recommend me to more viewers just like you. So please give me a like, give me a subscribe. I really need the subscribes right now. So I'm a couple days late on this. I wanted it to sink in a little bit. So, people may not be searching as much as they were over the past few days. So Donald Trump was criminally charged in New York with 34 felony counts for something along the lines of falsifying business records. Now, the outcome. Let's talk about the outcome. Let me say this from the start. As a libertarian, there are aspects of Donald Trump's policies that I like. I think he had some really good policies when he was president, but there are aspects of Donald Trump, who he is, the way he conducts himself, that I really don't like. But I consider myself, and we're going to go more into this, and you can just tell from my channel, as more of a Ron Paul libertarian, right? And the Libertarian Party itself has a bit of a liberal left-wing tilt to it, and the policies of libertarians overlap with both left and right, but I consider myself more of a right-leaning Ron Paul type of libertarian. And in that sense, I felt that Donald Trump had a lot of policies that aligned with a lot of my beliefs. Now, he had a lot of policies that did not. But he had a lot that did, okay? And generally the Democratic Party, I don't think, aligns with my thoughts or beliefs, and really the Republican Party doesn't either. I don't know that I want to be part of the Libertarian Party either. I think I feel just fine as an independent, but my views align most with libertarians. So I just want to put that out there, first of all. But what we're seeing here, let's talk about the political aspect first. Donald Trump was convicted of all charges, 34 counts. Now, the trial was in Manhattan. Manhattan itself is one of the most liberal parts of the country. The state of New York, funny thing about New York is if you went to upstate New York, a lot of it is red, but New York City itself and the surrounding area is such a massive population that it just dwarfs anything that sits up in upstate New York. So you have Manhattan, one of the liberal power centers, one of the centers of blue state America, in New York, one of the bluest states in the country, brought by a Manhattan district attorney, elected by these individuals, and you can probably bet your money, although the jury isn't allowed to I doubt the attorneys were allowed to ask this, that the vast majority of the people sitting on that jury were Democrats. Okay, so did Donald Trump ever really have a chance? Likely not. His other trials are going to be in similar circumstances, where the vast majority of the jury pool is going to be blue voters, Democrats, liberals. And so that's it's something we don't want politics to be involved in the court system, but it is, truth be told, it always has been, and it always will be. When you're dealing with human beings, right? Unless you want to turn trials over to artificial intelligence, which I don't think we want to do. Now, what really would have been interesting from a political point of view is if he was found not guilty, and that might have actually might have been better for the unity of the country in that sense, because this conviction is not going to affect the election itself very much. Whether Democrats thought about that or it's part of their strategy, I don't know. I could certainly speculate. But I do think that this conviction, especially given the facts of this case, I think the most serious case that Donald Trump is facing is the one in Georgia and the alleged election interference. But I thought this was the least serious case. A couple of checks on a ledger, and these are felony offenses. I mean, it required a big leap, a big interpretation, I think, to say that this was part of his campaign, et cetera, et cetera. And they found him guilty on all 34 counts. Now, we shouldn't necessarily be surprised by that, because all 34 counts were essentially the same. So they're gonna find him guilty on one. It wasn't the type of case where they find him guilty on one, but not guilty on the rest, which does sometimes happen. I've had it happen in many of my cases. But this was not the type of case where you would see that happen, because all the charges were basically the same. So it was either going to be a not guilty on everything or a guilty on everything, or perhaps even a hung jury, given the natures of the charges itself. So what are some other observations to take from this? Well, yeah, if the verdict had gone the other way, that might have been better for America as a country, because it would have shown that a blue state could see things perhaps in a different way. But instead, all the conviction did was it confirmed all of the confirmation bias that we already have about politics, and so which is that he couldn't get a fair trial in a blue state, and it's all blue jurors, so it's going to be a blue verdict, and that's exactly what happened. So it adds a little extra bit of toxicity to a political environment that is already extremely toxic. And if he's convicted on all his other cases, which he likely will be, and I can say that without even really knowing the facts, but because we know where these trials are going to take place, they're going to take place in all blue jurisdictions with a massively blue jury pool. We know, because the truth is Donald Trump has been on trial for, the last 10 years. I mean, he's been on trial for the last 10 years in the eyes of the media. So, what's said in the particular trial itself likely doesn't matter. Politicization. Well, let me talk about this first. The power of jurors, and keep that in mind. A jury, it's just a single case, but it is a very, very tremendous power. And a jury trial, can affect this country in a huge, impactful way. But when talking about the power of jury and politicization, I think we need to talk more about prosecutors, because prosecutors have tremendous power, and it all comes down to what is known essentially as prosecutorial discretion. Okay. And so the lawyers can look at a case, even if it's brought by the police or law enforcement, and they can say yes or no. And then all they have to do is, and then they can justify it in a number of ways. Well, the evidence just isn't there, or we didn't think this witness was going to testify credibly. And, you can see that. You can see that in the Joe Biden investigation about his records, the confidential records at his house. They said, well, we didn't want to prosecute him because he's old and his memory doesn't work. That's a prosecutorial decision. They could have easily made the decision the other way, right? This isn't like, it's, people think that it's much more mechanical, right? Or rule driven than it actually is. The reality is that a human being, one human being with all this power, the head prosecutor in a given jurisdiction, and maybe a few people around him, okay, his assistants, the people that have his ear, are going to make the decision whether or not to prosecute, right? And the decision to prosecute Donald Trump easily, it could have not been made, right? That could have been a decision that didn't necessarily have to be made. And the timing of these, I think, was planned probably on a grander scale, all of his prosecutions. But remember this. So when you're voting in your local elections, you think, oh, the mayor is important, or city council is important. No. Probably the most powerful local individual politician is your local district attorney. It's hugely important. And prosecutors can make decisions like, oh, well, we're gonna give bond to everybody, right? Like, we're not gonna. The amount of power they have in pulling the levers of the criminal justice system, and there are decisions that they make without judges being involved, okay? A judge can't even override them. A lot of people think, oh, the judges are the most powerful individuals in the justice system. I would argue that's not true. In Allegheny County, there's 30 judges. There's one district attorney who's bringing all the cases and making all the decisions on all the criminal cases. And that includes prosecuting a low-level drug offense to prosecuting the mayor himself, prosecuting members of city council herself, prosecuting anybody and everybody. This crooked businessman, it hit the news, I must prosecute it, okay? The media impacts and influences those individuals in a major way, but the prosecutors do not ever underestimate this incredible amount of power, because they can make a decision one way or another not to prosecute or to prosecute, and then they can justify almost every time. They can justify the decision one way or another. Now, not always. Some cases, it's like somebody was shot and there was a witness and the person died. They kind of have to go forward with it. But even then, they could say, the witness wasn't reliable, so we didn't move forward with the case. And we all saw this in 2020 and with George Floyd, right? And Black Lives Matter. As prosecutors, we're not going to prosecute police. We're not going to bring cases against police. And now they bring some cases against police. They also bring cases against perhaps politicians. And when a case is brought against a politician and the colors fit so perfectly, right? Everything on the blue is blue and red, and the blues are the ones bringing the cases against the red, or vice versa. That is not a good look. It's very toxic. But keep in mind how powerful an individual prosecutor is. In all these jurisdictions where Donald Trump and most of the major cities and power centers, the district attorneys there are Democrats, and they're elected by liberals. So that's just something to be aware of as a voter. Something you should be aware of as a voter. Now, one of the other things is everybody says, this turns us into a third world country, et cetera, et cetera. And, I thought about that a little bit. And then I thought about what leaders of third world countries, and you do see these prosecutions of politicians in third world countries, but you also see them in some major countries. France, the former French president Nicolas Sarkozy was criminally prosecuted. The former Prime Minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi, was criminally prosecuted, and the former president of Brazil, I think they called him Lula da Silva, they call him Lula. He was prosecuted, convicted, and now he is president of Brazil once again. And so these political prosecutions, it's just such a it's such a bad look. And I'm certainly not. I certainly don't think that presidents. I mean, presidents should definitely be able to be criminally prosecuted, but I think you have to think hard about what cases are going to be brought against them and the damage that could do to the republic as a whole. In a case like this, like I said, I think that the Georgia election interference case, I think that's the strongest case against him, and that's the one that's most interesting to me. But and maybe the federal case with the subpoena, but some of the other cases, as far as January 6th and him giving a speech and exercising First Amendment rights, that was already litigated to a large degree in Congress itself, and then this case just seemed a bit ridiculous. And so we have to be very careful and calm about the direction that this country is going. And I think that one of what we need is a third party or an independent candidate, somebody outside of this current extremely toxic dynamic, to start working to unify the country. And so, what I'm going to talk about in the upcoming episodes I've planned, I watched Robert F. Kennedy's speech at the Libertarian Convention, and it was a great speech. It was a great speech. I don't know that he's a libertarian, but it was a tremendous speech. So I want to talk about his speech. I didn't watch Trump's speech yet at the Libertarian Convention. I'm going to. I mean, I saw some of the quick reactions to it, and he said some things that were funny in these quips, which I will also talk about. But I want to watch the full speech, and then I'll talk about who the Libertarians actually nominated to be their candidate. And, the Libertarian Party, I don't know, in our two-party system, can ever be taken seriously, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we need a third party. We need a third candidate. We need a third way. We need a middle way. There's got to be another way in this country. The Democrats and the Republicans, to me, are just extremely, extremely toxic right now. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Joe Palmetto's Libertarian Front. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I have a lot more to share with you in the coming days. I got a couple of videos planned, like I said, talk about the Libertarian Convention as a whole, the Kennedy speech, the Trump speech, and the Libertarian nominee, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.